Tony and wants to do with this, but I'm okay with. But I just really didn't want anyone to be the next Exalted One or the next. That's all I didn't. That's all that I wanted was no one to replace him. So if they did have Eric Redbeard come in, he would just be a Dark Water member. I wouldn't want him to be the leader.
What's up, Bengal fans? It's your host, Joey Karni, and I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It was an amazing experience, and I can't wait for you to watch the full episode and enjoy it just as much as I did filming it. Now, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down below to stay up to date with all the Angles activity right here on YouTube. Now enjoy the show.
Let's go, let's go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Angle Podcast. With me today is the most requested AEW superstar to interview. He's intense, he's powerful, and his arms are as big as hell. He's Mr. Johnny Hungee himself. Ladies and gentlemen, John Silver. How are you?
What's up? How you doing?
Good, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk. So first off, where did Johnny Hungee come from? Because it's this phrase that everyone's using. It's all over social media. It's really gone viral. So where did it really stem from?
That's just from my real life. That's that I would just say. I would just say that in real life situations. That was funny. And then it would even if I'm going out, it would just mean anything. Like if I wanted to do something, I was hungry. Oh, you guys want to go out tonight? Yeah, Johnny Hungee, man, come on. So it would just always be it would mean anything really. It just that meant I wanted to do something if I was hungry. It's let's get, obviously if we get food, Johnny Hungee. If you wanted to go out, Johnny Hungee. Whatever it was, I don't know. And just every time I would say it, I noticed everyone would laugh.
Yeah.
Even with different people, constantly everyone would always laugh at it. So I was all right, well, let me use it on DT, see what happens.
Of course, and it worked. It went viral. I mean, everyone's saying it. I hear people who barely watch wrestling but know of it, and they're like, "I Hungee," they use their own name, and I'm like, "How do you know that?" John Silver, come on! I'm like, wow, it's really gone everywhere.
That's funny.
Really cool to see. But I really am interested in origin stories. How did you discover pro wrestling and ultimately get into it?
As long as I can remember, I watched wrestling. There's no certain. I remember this one event, and then now I remember it forever. It was just me and my dad and my sister would always watch it as early as I could possibly remember, and I was just hooked constantly. So yeah, I watched it, stayed up, and then I'd always stay up late because that was the Attitude Era when I grew up, and there was some questionable things happening during the Attitude Era where I'm a little kid and my dad's watching with me. He's like, I don't know if you should be watching this. But he was always pretty good. I do somehow remember that there was one point where he's like, you know what? I think Raw went to 11. He's like, you guys gotta go to bed at 10. And we're like, the best matches don't even happen yet. You can't put me to bed yet. So it was a big thing in my household. It's yeah, put us to bed early. We need to watch.
Wow.
But yeah, we just just as early as I remember. I guess my dad put it on once or twice, and we were instantly hooked with it. So we just always watched it, and from there it was looking up. If you go to video stores, you go to the wrestling section and just watch some earlier stuff and stuff like that. But yeah, ever since I was a kid, just instantly hooked.
Wow. And your moveset, I mean, it's so intense. It's go, go, go. How are you able to do that? Where does that ability come from?
I don't even know. I get blown up so many times. I hate doing cardio. So there's been times mid-match, I feel like I'm dying. But then I'll usually ask people after, did it look like I was blown up? And they're like, no, you look like you were moving. I was dying. So, I mean, more so lately, especially because now if I am extremely blown up on TV, I can't just hey, roll the outside and try to make more time like I could in the indies. No, we got time to hit. So I just gotta make sure I'm always on my cardio. So I'm back. I was off for a while, but I was doing now with my shoulder, I got to take this at least a month off. But kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and those things, those are tough because if you're like, you need to have your cardio with that too, because you'll just get your freaking ass kicked, especially like with both of them. Like if you're, your hands start to drop, you're getting punched in the face. If you're jiu-jitsu, someone's laying on top of you or someone's trying to break your arm. So like those help my cardio a lot too.
Of course. And earlier on in your career, you were an extra for WWE, or you were part of WWE. What was that whole process? If you can kind of like elaborate on what that was, and if you thought you'd be signed there.
I've done extra work for WWE a bunch of times, but they never give you. There's no like. It's like what's the right word I'm looking for? It's like it's not a good feeling, even though you're like very happy to do it. Like, wow, I'm the extra backstage, but like you're bottom of the totem pole. Like a lot of the people, there are plenty of people that are nice backstage, like WWE guys, but there's plenty of, they won't even look at you. Like they won't even, you better not even get like near them. You better make eye contact and they'll go bury. It's like very like, I don't know. It's a little too much. It's a little like, like I know at AEW, like we like to get like, at least I like when people come up to me and they, say who they are and introduce themselves, like the extras. But like they're, for the most part, there was some people that were very nice backstage at WWE, but it's very, you're walking on eggshells constantly, and it's not like, it's really not a fun thing to do besides like eat their catering, and hopefully you get like a little match on TV or we get beat up. But I didn't. Doing extra work was awful.
Of course, and especially like in a creative environment where you have to like socialize with other people to go over your matches and do things like that. That does kind of create, like not an issue, but it kind of makes it like uncomfortable to work, I guess. So I kind of understand that. How did you get into AEW? Were you approached by them? Like, did you know of AEW before they came to you?
Yeah, we of course we knew what AEW was. So we knew around the time, like we knew there was a new company that was going to happen, and we knew it was like the Young Bucks and Cody, Kenny, and all them. Yeah. So we hit them up before they even announced anything. Like the Young Bucks, just like, hey, just letting you guys know, we are not contracted anywhere, me and Alex, and just throw it out there if this thing is happening. So then they told us like, hang tight, big things are happening, and we'll stay in contact and we'll see what happens. Because me and Alex wrestled Young Bucks before, and because we wrestled them before is the reason why we got into PWG. So we're waiting, and then eventually AEW gets announced, and they announce a few people, and then announcing more people, and then more people, and we're like, hit them up again. I mean, they're super busy at this point, and we didn't hear back. Oh, great. So eventually it gets to TV. They get their first episode of TV. Then we get hit up by QT Marshall. He's like, hey, we want to book you guys for AEW. And we're like, holy crap. Finally happening. This is going to be awesome. It was going to be in Philly. We're like, this is the best thing ever. We're finally made it. So we get there. And I see on the board, it says Proud and Powerful versus Local Talent. And we were local talent. So I'm like, oh, I'm back to being an extra. But like the way he wrote it to us, it didn't make it seem like, hey, you're going to do extra work. It was like, hey, we want to book you guys. So we're like, crap. So it was like riding a high. Then we get there, super depressed. I mean, we were happy to do it, obviously. Yeah. But then, like, after the match, Matt Jackson came up to me and Alex, and he's very like nonchalant sometimes when he talks. Yeah. But he's like saying what he means. He's like, hey, it's like maybe we'll bring you guys back like every week, and just every week you'll be the local talent that gets beat up, and like that'll be your thing for a while. It'll be like funny. Wow. I'm like, we're like, sure, we'll do it. Well, so we go home, and then we didn't hear from them for about like a week or so, but then they're like, hey, we have, we want to book you guys again for West Virginia. So they flew us out to West Virginia. They put us up in a hotel. And we're like, okay, this is a good sign. But then we get there and we have, a slightly longer match, but it was on TV against the Best Friends. And I'm like, okay, that's good. They flew us out. They could have got anyone from the area to do this or anyone that's in driving distance. But then after the match, Matt Jackson's like, hey, maybe we'll just put you guys in like the Dark Order or something. And we're like, wow. Sure, we'll do it. And then it just kind of like slowly we started getting just booked normally until we were in the Dark Order, and it started to happen. But it was just like a weird thing. We never had like that weird we never had the logos as John Silver and Alex Reynolds are all elite. Like we were just kind of like there.
Float in. Yeah, and speaking of the Dark Order, you guys are in the Dark Order. It's evolved so much since its first it was created. Do you know what the original idea behind the Dark Order was? Did they ever go over that with you before, telling you that you're going to be in it?
Kind of. I've seen Uno was doing the gimmick on the Indies. Like he was getting like his students to do the chair with the minions, and I'm like, I thought it was the coolest thing. I'm like, this is something different. Like, something completely different, especially on the Indies. Like I've never seen this before, so I always thought it was really cool. So I was excited to be in the Dark Order. Then they kind of got put in a really bad situation when they debuted, and then everyone hated them. I think that what happened was they did like a lights off, lights on type thing.
Yeah,
and this is like the first episode, or I think it was, or the second, something like that. And everyone's expecting big names to come in right away. And if you're not a big independent wrestling fan, you don't know who you are. So like they lights off, lights on, they're in the ring, they beat them up, and everyone's like, oh, we were expecting Sabu because or we were expecting, CM Punk or, so like they immediately got like just shit on, just because people didn't know who they were and they were expecting some big name or something like that. But I like when I was talking to them about the Dark Order, it's like a cult, and we're all kind of like brainwashed, and we're all this weird, creepy cult. And I'm like, this sounds awesome. I haven't really, not that I really remember. I don't remember too many cults in wrestling. Like there's groups, but I don't remember too many cults at least. I'm like, this is something really cool. It's something different, but the fans didn't like us at all. Did not want us. But eventually we turned it around.
Of course, and you guys had masks at one point, and then BTE happens. Dark Order takes over. BTE. What was the reaction, or what was your reaction to the fans' reaction from everything that was going on with BTE? Did you expect that reaction from them?
Not as much, but like the original like stuff with BTE, the idea was I think Uno was even like, hey, like what if you guys just did like BTE and did like recruitment bits, like so it was supposed to be just me and Alex. It wasn't supposed to be all of us. But what happened was we're like, okay, well, how do we set up us being the recruitment specialist? So we're like, oh, what if something where like Brodie comes in, yells at us, yells at Uno, but then Uno passes on like, hey, you guys like the emails, right? That was the first one. He's like, you guys like emails? We're like, yeah, we love emails. We'll answer all the emails. And people just thought it was so funny that Brodie came in and pegged Uno in the face the papers that we had to do that like again. So we had to keep on doing that. We had to keep on getting Brodie in, but then we also did the recruitment bits, like us trying to recruit multiple people, like Marco Stunt and Nyla Rose and a bunch of other people. But so we did those ones on our own. That was supposed to be the only thing that happened, but because the reaction of Brodie papering Uno in the face, we're like, oh, we should do that again, or we should do more of this, and that just became a whole different thing. And then we're just like, screw it, let's just do Dark Order bits as well.
Of course. And, BT, it's so authentic, but it also plays into the show so well. I think it's one of my favorite, like, YouTube series that there are for, like, pro wrestling. And so much of what you guys have done has worked. Is there a formula, I guess, you guys use behind what you create for BT?
We try to make it, a lot of it, like, especially now more, we're trying to really stay in more of a, like, trying to tell a story or whatever's happening on the show, try to make somewhat relatable. At first, it was just us doing us. It was just like,
Yeah.
well, what's the idea? And then maybe we tied a little bit. Like, Brodie won the belt. Okay, let's do something with that. But at first, we were just kind of doing whatever we wanted. Especially like the me and Alex recruitment bits was just whatever. Had nothing to do with anything. Especially now, now we have like Hangman. So we try to like use what's happening on TV and put it in here. But then sometimes like we'll mention stuff that happened on TV. But then for some reason we're having a slumber party for no reason. Like a random idea that we had that we're just like, okay, you do something that can be funny, and then maybe say some other stuff that makes sense with the storylines going on. So it's like all intertwined, I guess.
Yeah, and Dark Order is naturally a heel faction. The whole idea of what it is it's a heel faction. What did you, or do you prefer like being a heel or a face, like the Dark Order? In general, a heel or a face group?
I prefer a face. I'm a much better face than a heel. I just think I'm just like if I'm gonna be John Silver, like I could just not have to. I could just go in there and be myself, and I'm a face. I think when I have to be a heel, I have to like act. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
When I'm a face, I'm just kind of just doing John Silver. Not even it's literally just John Silver. If I'm a heel, I have to be acting, and it makes me slightly less comfortable. But
yeah,
if I can be a face, it's just me. You're getting what I would do, and I'll just mess around, and it works. So, I mean, as a group though, I still think if we still had Brodie, obviously I'd want to be a heel group.
Yeah.
But with the rest of us, I think everyone on BTE has evolved into a face as well.
Yeah.
Like at first, we try to keep it how, okay, I'm the crazy weird one that's silly, and then everyone else was kind of like not serious, but like Stu is always the serious one. He would never joke around and sing and dance and do this. Now he's doing all that. Like Udo was, maybe saying a few things, but he was never being over the top silly. Now he is like, obviously Colt is. Alex was supposed to be like my, not my, kind of like my big brother type way, like more serious. Like he's got to look after me, and I'm the weird one. But now like we're all just pretty crazy on BT. So I think we all just evolved. But if we still had Brodie in the group, obviously I think we were doing some really cool stuff on TV, like when we beat up Cody and stuff like that. And he won the BT when he won the TNT title. But I don't know. I like being a face, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and when the announcement of the Exalted One came about, I mean, did you have any ideas of who it would be? Did they say that there was someone that was going to become a leader, or did they just run the vignettes and then say, oh, by the way, you guys are going to have someone in charge?
Yeah, they kind of told us there was going to be Exalted One, and then they were talking about who it possibly could be.
Yeah.
And they said it seemed like it was going to be Matt Hardy. So I was like, okay, big Hardy Boys fan growing up.
Yeah.
Like Matt Hardy. The Broken Matt, I was like, oh, it's pretty hot. Like people are into it, so that'd be pretty cool. Then they're like, oh, but it could be maybe Brodie. But at that point, when they were talking about it, they weren't sure. I don't think they were sure if he was actually definitely going to sign with us.
Yeah.
And then there was also they talked about Marty, but they mentioned Marty, but they're like, yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. So he wasn't.
I saw rumors of that, but
Marty was supposed to be the Exalted One. He never was. That was it was an idea that they didn't even. They said it to the first time they told us. They're like, yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. So, but we were stoked because it just adds a big name to our group. It makes us more high profile. It makes us more legit. So. Before, obviously, when they said Brodie, I was pretty happy too because I've seen him on the Indies. I've seen him having awesome matches in WWE. So, and I'm like, that makes sense for him to be a leader too. Like his character and personality will be really cool. So, I was happy for either Matt or Brodie, but the way it went, I think it made a lot more sense and is a lot better that Brodie was the Exalted One.
Yeah, and when that all came about, I mean, did they ask you your guys' opinion of who you thought would fit best, or anything like that, or ask for suggestions or anything?
They didn't ask me or Alex. Maybe Stuart. We were kind of bottom of the totem pole. Like we didn't even have we had 2 or 3 matches.
Yeah,
and we were on the per appearance deal. We weren't even on a full time deal yet. So they might have asked Stu and Uno, but they didn't ask us. So, but it was it's up to them anyway. So,
of course. And if it were to be Matt Hardy, I mean, what do you think would have happened to the idea of the Dark Order being in control of Matt Hardy? Would it have been any different from Brodie being in charge, or what do you kind of compare and contrast, I guess?
Well, it would depend on what Matt Hardy he wanted to do. Like if he was broken, I think eventually would have to be faces anyway.
Yeah.
People don't hate broken Matt. If it was big money Matt, we would be heels, but
yeah, could have worked too.
It could have worked. But I think Brodie seems more dark and scary,
dominant.
Then big money Matt just seems like a dick rich guy.
Yeah.
So I could have worked, but I think Brodie was definitely the best one.
And when Brodie got sick, I mean, obviously everything was kept under wraps. They didn't want to say anything to anybody. Were there any ideas as to what would happen to the Dark Order? Did they kind of give you any update as to what's going to happen with the group?
No, we just kind of were just hoping he was going to get better.
Yeah.
Eventually, when we found out it was very serious, we're just kind of hoping he would get better. And then see what happens. I mean, we didn't really know. We had nothing in mind. We were just trying to, at least on BTE and stuff, just stay positive and, just say he was away, he was hurt or whatever. Yeah. But I didn't have anything in mind. I wasn't hey, let's go this direction. I just didn't even want to think about it. So
yeah. And his tribute show, I think, was honestly the most beautiful and best tribute show that I think I've ever seen for a wrestling superstar. It was such a well put together show, the storytelling and combining it with realistic elements from Brodie and everybody involved. What were your thoughts? I mean, obviously wrestling on the show, but being able to just overall just I guess deal with that day.
It was very obviously very important to do that. Yeah. It was very difficult and emotional. But I definitely wanted to be a part of it. So I'm glad that I was a part of it. But it was just, I don't know, it was just tough. It's just hard to, it was important, but it was tough and it was painful, but something like that had to be done. And I think AEW did the best show. They did right by their family in the best possible way. And they just really paid tribute to, Brodie, who was such an amazing person, amazing wrestler, amazing dad, husband. So I think they did everything they possibly really could have to make it special for the fans, for us, his friends, and family.
And then I think the moment of the night for me from that tribute show that really stood out the most, Eric Redbeard comes out. He's in the ring with the Dark Order, holding up his sign. You were obviously there. Were there any thoughts after that? Maybe Eric can come in and join the Dark Order and kind of always pay tribute in a way to Brodie. Was that a conversation, you think?
Not, but so I mean, for me, I didn't even think about it. I was I knew he came. I'm oh, it's possible they put us with this, but I'm whatever, Tony and wants to do with this, what I'm okay with. But I just really didn't want anyone to be the next Exalted One or the next. That's all I didn't. That's all that I wanted was no one to replace him. So if they did have Eric Redbeard come in, he would just be a Dark Order member. I wouldn't want him to be the leader.
Yeah. And do you have any like one favorite story that stands out of Brodie or a story of Brodie?
I mean, the most like nicest, genuine one I've told a few times was when he bought my ring jacket and he bought my matching gear to him that I wore at the show.
Yeah.
He just decided to buy it. Like, it wasn't like he's like, hey, I'm gonna get you a ring jacket. It's gonna make you look, more official, more like legit, like more professional. And he's like, I'm also gonna get you a matching gear to mine. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, what's the matching gear for? He's like, I don't know. Like, we'll probably we'll do something on BTE with it. I'm like, oh, cool. What's the idea? And he's like, I don't know. We'll think of something now. So he didn't even have an idea. And he bought this gear and he bought the jacket. And it was over $1,000 altogether just to help me, as to help me get more over, to get, the crowd more into me, like, make me look better. So it was just like, wow, that's, it's extreme. I mean, I understand, like, hey, him buying food for us or that, but buying, over $1,000 just for me was pretty super special,
Yeah, that's a great story. There's really you can't really, there's not much more you can say to that. But having -1, Brodie's son, involved with the Dark Order now, it's such, I think, like a beautiful touch to pay tribute to him. How is that, having -1 with the group?
He's crazy. He's crazy.
That's why I'm laughing.
He likes to fight us. I feel like the last few shows he hasn't been as bad, so maybe he's coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's usually there. I think he's because he has to go to school as well, so he can't be at every show. But he's a great kid. He's just he's definitely, he loves wrestling so much. He's going to be a wrestler. It's like there's no like, oh well, if he wants to, he's gonna do it. He's gonna be really good too.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to have him around. Making him happy. Also, Brodie's wife always comes down, and they also bring their other son, who's a little younger, doesn't quite understand everything yet, but he's super cute and super fun to wrestle with and beat up a little bit too. But it's just cool to have him around and just know that Brodie's presence is still there, and that we're helping is making them smile and making them happy. Just be around.
Yeah, and when they retired his TNT title, they obviously created a new one. That, I think, was really just something that we've never seen before in wrestling. What did you think of that, of AEW doing that?
Oh, it's just more. I mean, more professional things you could do to honor such a great man. So I thought it was great. I thought it was everything they did. I thought it was excellent. So I'm really happy with everything they did. With the whole situation.
Awesome. And so the last couple of weeks have really been, I guess, up and down for you. You had a TNT title match, a banger of a match with Darby Allin on Dynamite. How did you feel about the match?
I was happy. I was happy with everything. I know a lot of people were watching, and a lot of people were talking about it. I had a lot of people just reach out to me randomly. That some people like from companies everywhere, all over the some people I don't even talk to that often were hitting me up and just saying how much they liked the match and how much they were really like rooting for me. So it was really cool to see how much people actually were invested, not only just watching, but were really invested. And I thought the match went really well. Obviously I hurt my shoulder during the match, like midway through the match. And because people forget about my shoulder, I also bashed my head on the concrete too. So I had a huge knot on the back of my head. And then, so I land there and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here or no.
Yeah, of course.
So I land over, boom, I hit my head, and Alex jumps at the railing, and I'm like, Alex, I'm fucked. And then I kind of look over, and there's the camera's right there. I wasn't expecting a camera to be on that side.
Yeah.
And I mean, I watched it back. You can't hear me. And then I'm like, oh shit, a camera. And then I move my arm. I'm like, oh, my shoulder's fucked. And then I'm like, oh, the camera's still there. What am I doing? So I try not to curse on TV. But I got over once I got over the guardrail, I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. I gotta make it happen. I gotta make something work. So it just like sucks to get hurt. And especially like now I gotta take a little bit of time off. I won't be away from TV though. I'm gonna still be down there. So hopefully there's stuff for me to do where I'm not away, where I'm just not on TV at all. But it's just it was really cool to have a main event match for the title, and people really were invested. People were super.
Of course. And what exactly was the injury that you suffered, and if you know when it actually happened? When you went down?
When I went over the guardrail,
Got it.
I landed on my left shoulder, but I hurt my right shoulder. So what happened was I guess I tried to post or prevent myself from falling. So I posted with my right, and I think it just everything got stretched out in there. So I got the MRI, and it turns out I've had a torn labrum for years. Like wow. I didn't know. Wow. So my labrum was torn. So they actually it's weird they didn't say, hey, this is the injury right here. They showed this is all inflammation. Yeah. The labrum's torn. But I think it's mostly, once that inflammation goes down, I gotta strengthen, around the labrum and stuff like that, and then I'll be back. I really don't. My range of motion has already been getting a lot better. I still definitely can't range my arm too high, but for the first day I was like moving my arm like 3 inches is all I could do, like 3 inches up, 3 inches to the side, and that's it. So now it's definitely a lot better. But yeah, I think I'll be back sooner than I think. I want to start. I'm already doing legs at the gym and doing cardio and still trying to keep active. So
of course, Johnny Hungee wants to get back to wrestling. And when you do come back, what's next for John Silver? Is it the TNT title after that match you had with Darby? Because that, like I said, phenomenal match right before the injury. What do you think is next for you?
I think that's the good thing about the Dark Order too is I can go in any direction. I don't we could do stuff together as a group. I know they're still, we're still feuding with Big Money Matt and his group, but at 1 week it could be the Dark Order versus all of them, and then me for the title, or this and then
match over this, or
or we're going after Big Money Matt, and then soon Uno have a tag title match, or so it's I feel like we could always just kind of bounce around a little bit. So I mean, obviously in a perfect world I come back and I win the belt, but we'll see. I don't know. I gotta just make sure my arm's 100%. I want to make sure I'm not gonna get hurt again when I get in there. What happened with Anna, and she hurt her shoulder. It took a month off, and then she came back a little too soon and she re-hurt it. So I just want to make sure everything's strengthened in there before I even really do too much. But I'm already trying to push myself a little bit in the gym and try to do this and that and rehab it myself. So I just want to be back on TV and doing what I do best. Want to have big matches. I want to wrestle the best people. I want to win all the championships, and I want to do it all.
Awesome, man. I'm excited for when you come back and all the things you're gonna do, because from what you've done so far, you're so over with the crowd and you're doing phenomenal things. So I think all the fans are ready, to see Johnny Hungee back in an AEW ring. For all the fans listening and watching right now, where can they find you on social media, just to stay up to date with you?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and they're both the same handle. It's Silver, and then number is spelled out, and then just the 1. And then I'm also on Cameo, and I got Pro Wrestling Tees, the Pro Wrestling Tees store. You can find some of my shirts on the Being the Elite page, or you can still look up some other shirts on the Beaver Boys page, which Beaver Boys, my old tag team with Alex, we're in the Indies.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and taking the time to talk and really just open up and talk about everything that's going on. I think the fans and myself included are really excited for you to come back and do some phenomenal things.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
No problem. You too.